time. Money's gone, blue light shining, golden strums and passes in the night don't amount to much. Boy, you've always been a dreamer, don't you know you never will? No, you never will. Don't you know you never will? Boy, you've always been a dreamer, don't you know you never will? No, you never will get there. I've got to. If it's the last thing I ever do, do you remember falling just the other day? And how the last thing you needed then was to hear me say, oh baby, don't you know you'll never get anywhere that way? And when you was falling, there was flashing in your eyes, it seemed. Oh, but baby, I've been known to dream. Don't you know I've been known to dream?
All of you for coming. We're here to just have Jamie in our thoughts and celebrate his life. It's no secret that he had his demons that he battled, but he had a lot of great times, and there's people from all the areas of his life, from his childhood. I knew him first, by the way. So it's really great to see everybody here, and thanks for coming. We always said Jamie got my dad's addictions, my mom's anxiety, but somewhere in the family he got the hair. Unfortunately, me and Geordie didn't get that. Right now, I guess Laura, who didn't want to talk, is going to speak briefly about the book. So, put you on the spot. The one that didn't want to talk is going to be the first.
So, I put a book together with things that people have been sending me and pictures people have been sending, and this is going to go home with Neah. So if you have messages you want to write Neah, if you're like me and are worried that you're going to ruin the book because you've misspelled something, I put little cards on the side, and there's pens, but these pens write on the black pages, and there's other colored pens in here. There's stickers, there's glue stick, you can, there's even a little envelope, so if you want to put something like this and put stuff in it, you're more than welcome. Cut things, just do what you want to do that leaves a message for who Jamie was to you, and that you want to share with her so that she has that memory, because all of us have had different experiences with Jamie, and those are things that she didn't get to experience with us, and I want her to see all the different amazing things that her dad was. And there's open pages in the back, so if you happen to bring pictures and you want to add them to it, also feel free. Also, what's up here is there's a couple copies of these, but they're Jamie's poems. If anybody would like the copies of the poems, I can email them to you. It's a file. Yeah, a file JR and I both have it because it didn't CC both of us. Correct. And then these are messages from people that were not able to make it. And JR is going to let everybody know what they say. But if you didn't hear everything, you can read the messages yourself. It's from like Scott and Clay and Ken Muller. But please feel free to add things to the book. You can write directly in the book. You can insert whatever you feel, and if there's other things that you may find at a later date and you want them to go to her, let us know, and you can send them to either JR, myself, or Frank, and we'll make sure that she gets them. And even if you're local and you want to drop something off or want to go meet, I'll gladly come and pick it up so that she can have something that reminds her of her dad and the story that goes with it. So, but that's all I'm talking about.
Thank you, Laura.
I just want to thank everyone for coming out. I mean, this is great. You know, we've got people coming from different places, from Oregon and Idaho, Washington,
New York City.
Yeah, if you haven't met Jamie's daughter, Neah's right here. You know, Tina came out from New York. And I think what's important is life is a long, strange trip, and Jamie went through many phases in life. So I think it's great that we've got people from all these different phases, you know, from the Los Altos Children's Theater days of our youth, from the Sunnyvale days of our teenage years, to Jamie's Grateful Dead days, and Paul is here, and to, you know, Jamie's time on Vashon Island and all of that. So I just think it's...
Bumbershoot.
Oh, the Bumbershoot.
Yeah. There you go.
That's right. Well,
Oregon Country Fair.
Jamie's the reason we went to Bumbershoot, isn't it? We discovered
I went to Country Fair and I actually came down with reviews that one time.
Right, so I just think it's so great that you could all acknowledge that and be here for that, to pay your tribute, your memories to Jamie. Thank you for being here.
So these guys are great. They memorize stuff. I wrote mine down. But Neah wanted to point out, so Jamie always said that he lost his marbles and he spent the rest of his life collecting them. So Neah brought a bag of some of them if you guys want to go through and save one as a memento of Jamie, that you wanted to pass that along to everybody. So, all right. So yeah, I got a lot of stuff to read. So I'll go with mine first. Yes, thank you. We'll just done. So, Jamie was like a brother to me. I've known him since we were 11, and we met at my first show at Los Altos Children's Theater. We grew up together since then. He's been my longest friend. We had a lot of firsts together. From first girlfriends, first cars, first parties, we shared many adventures together. If he wasn't there when something new happened in my life, he would be the first person I'd call to tell about it. I was there after his first kiss with Laura de Craker and played his first Styx album the morning after. He's going to ask my I remember the song that was playing, and I happened to put it on, and he went, "That's it! That's a song!" So it was Come Sail Away.
Come Sail Away. Whoa.
Grand Illusion.
Yeah, Grand Illusion. There you go. And I took my first and last bike ride up the Los Altos Hills with Jamie to go to Laura's house. I think it was 20 miles straight uphill, hence the last time. I know it wasn't, but it felt like 20. But Jamie was so passionately inspiring, I rode up that dang hill with him just so he could spend time with Laura. Jamie has always been a force to be reckoned with from an early age. I remember being at the gatherings, because no parties were allowed at the house, that we lovingly knew as the Shambles. And I remember talking to his mom about how to deal with Jamie. And I reassured her, as only a know-it-all 17-year-old could, with the supreme confidence of one who knows nothing. It seemed to work out, though. Jamie and I spent our teen years doing everything together. We eventually migrated over to Sunnyvale Community Theater. We'd rehearse and then go over to our hangout, the beach.
Yeah.
It was really the parking lot in front of Farrell's, where he and Keith and I worked. And after work or rehearsal, yeah, the beach.
The beach.
The three of us would end up there with a bunch of other friends, drinking beers and air jamming to the best of the 80s. Sitting on our cars. Okay, you're on drums, I'm on guitar, I'm on bass.
Everybody would turn on the same radio station and turn it up.
Oh yeah, every night. Jamie was always pushing the envelope. He didn't want to do things the way everyone else did. He wanted to make life conform to him, not the other way around. Rather than finish high school, he took his GED and was the first friend who left home to start life on his own. After a short detour to New Mexico, he landed in Los Angeles. He moved there to pursue acting, but once on his own, the world truly became his oyster. He worked hard to create his own lifestyle. He grew from the kid who used to carefully coif his hair every day. Remember how he used to hair dry it, put a little sock cap on it to make sure it wouldn't poof out too much. Yeah, he grew into an independent man who took LA by the tail. I would visit him from time to time, and he turned me on to so many things. Hollywood, punk music, and my first Grateful Dead show. I learned from Jamie as he morphed from actor to punk to photographer to hippie to father. Always on his terms and blazing his own trail. I knew that he was a big influence on everyone he met. John Baltic, his first roommate in LA, could draw 95% of the people he knew in LA to Jamie because they met early on. John says they met walking down Hollywood Boulevard, and within a month they had found an apartment in Hollywood, and the rest of it was history. Jamie was the first person I know to go on Grateful Dead tour. He and Paula, over there, bought a van and followed the Grateful Dead for years, introducing me to the idea that we don't have to conform to the expected 9-to-5 way of life. Jamie was never one to conform to any expectations. He was often quixotic in his approach to life, and while I admit he sometimes had a tendency to tilt at too many windmills, his rebellion could be inspiring. Having seen that he was able to make life on the road showed me that it could be done. Years later, Jennifer and I took a year off to travel the road. I figured if Jamie could do it, Jamie could also be a charmer. I'll never forget one time we went to a Grateful Dead concert together. As we were going in, they had the typical pat down to make sure you weren't carrying anything illicit. And when it came to Jamie's turn, he gave the security woman a big hug as she patted him down. I tried the same thing at the next concert I went to, and I almost got maced. I think Jamie met Lee on Dead Tour, and when Neah was born, Jamie and Lee continued to tour a year or so before settling down. They eventually landed on Vashon Island in Washington and lived there for years as a family. When Jennifer and I were on the road in 1995, we met up with Jamie, Lee, and Neah at Yellowstone. There's a picture of this event, too. I'll never forget the time. We were all driving through the park in their station wagon, and suddenly Jamie stopped the car. "Hold it," he said. He turned the station wagon around. It was an 8-point turn on a two-lane road. He turned the station wagon around and drove up a bit. He jumped out of the car, ran up the roadside, and came back a minute later with a puffball of mushroom the size of a basketball. And we sliced it up and marinated it in butter. It was wonderful. Really good. He always had the ability to find the coolest things in the strangest places. As the song says, once in a while you get shown the light in the strangest of places if you look at it right. Lee used to say that she never met anyone who quoted Grateful Dead lyrics more often than Jamie did. And got them more wrong often, neither. When Jennifer and I got engaged, I immediately thought of Jamie for my best man. When I asked him, he seemed a little apprehensive, and he was kind of hedging and hawing. I pressed him. I said, what's going on? And he said, well, do I have to wear a tux or a suit? And I laughed and reassured him that he could wear whatever he wanted. It got a little bit smoother after that, and Jamie stood by me at our wedding. As time went by, Jamie and I communicated less often, but whenever we did, we were able to pick up as if the years had never gone by. Jamie would call me, or vice versa, every month or so, and we'd spend an hour or so catching up. In between, he'd send me copies of his poetry and other random thoughts he'd have. The last time we were able to get together in person was January of 2021, when he was living in Eugene. I drove up, and we spent a few hours together. We had lunch and drove to the Oregon Country Fairgrounds, one of Jamie's favorite places. And as we walked around the 8, talking about everything and nothing, I'm reminded of a quote that I have at the entrance of my house. It says, "If I had known this was my last time, I would have stayed a little longer, savored it a little more." The last time we were in touch was Halloween of 2020, just a couple of days before his passing. Jennifer and I were at a Dead & Company show, and Jamie and I were texting back and forth, just goofing and sending pictures. I know Jamie faced death the same way he faced life, on his terms and his way. While I'm saddening at his passing, I know that if there's an afterlife, Jamie will be the first one there to greet me. He'll have taken time to check the place out and be ready to show me all the coolest places he found, and we'd pick up right where we left, as if no time had passed at all. And that's my brother. Love you, man. And these were a few quotes that from people that weren't able to be here that Law asked me to pass along. The first one is from Ken Moeller, who says, and I hadn't read this, so please forgive me. I was friends with Jamie, his brothers, and his parents from the time I was 12 or 13. The Lynch family was like no other, and that's an elegy for another day. But that's an elegy for another day. In Los Altos Children's Theater, Jamie and I were in a production of the musical Fantastics. He played Mortimer, a hack actor in a traveling show whose only task is to die. As his partner says, I recite Shakespeare, Mortimer dies. And what a death scene it was. Jamie spent perhaps 2 minutes writhing, groaning, flailing, pratfalling and running over every inch of the stage in his spectacular death throes. He was part comedic thespian, part stuntman. He was brilliant and hilarious. He was 12. He had the knack. Since then, I've seen grown-up productions of the Fantastics in which Mortimer's death scene was tepid and uninspiring. Maybe the audience laughed, but I, who had seen Jamie, was unimpressed. I say stuntman. Other kids told me Jamie wanted to be one when he grew up and practice at home by jumping off the roof. If that doesn't say free the spirit, I don't know what does. I also saw him in a children's theater collection of humorous takes on fairy tales. Oh, story theater, I think. I think some details of the material were developed by the actors themselves. In one of the stories, he played the protagonist, who is sympathetic, but not the brightest bulb on the Christmas tree. I remember that one. That was story theater. For those of you, Laura, you were there. Yeah, Bertie was there. And one of Jamie's performance was a hoot. At one point, the fellow encounters magical, supernatural events and is baffled. He struggles, then pleased with himself for suspecting he has solved the mystery. He says with perfect timing and delivery, "Am I on candid camera?" I still chuckle audibly. In our mortal world, one day we will all be forgotten. That's just the way it is. Until then, may the memory of what was best in us still sparkle. Jamie's does. He used to do skits, I got one more pick for this. He used to do skits at our backyard carnivals where he would be in a shootout and get shot and fall off the roof and onto a pile of mattresses. And that was from Ken.
I guess you like this.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, there's some more. I'm sorry, yeah. So, and I got two more. The next one is from Clay Williams. Clay's down in LA, and he sent this to the Children's Theater thing. I knew Jamie when we were kids. In fact, he personified what it meant to be a kid. Curious, boundlessly energetic, funny, and endlessly optimistic. His talent came easily to him, and he wore it gleefully. Anyone around at the heyday of Children's Theater could tell his was a star that burned bright. My memories of Jamie are Kodachrome tinted and play out in silent slow motion. It seemed the sun was always shining then. There he is just now, bounding around the stage, fearless and bearing a giant grin. Goodbye, sweet Jamie. You live on in the memories and the hearts of all you touched. That's Clay. Thank you, Clay. Last one. I have been in touch with Scott Williams. For those of you who know,
Hey!
we went and visited him in 2019, right before COVID. No, he's in London. He goes to France to teach sometimes, but he lives in London. So I reached out to Scott and said, "Hey, Scott, do you have anything you wanted to say?" And so he sent this. A memory for Jamie. People in the theater are very good at making family. Maybe it's because we're all lost children at heart, and maybe it's because we leap from job to job with little security. Maybe because we need approval from an audience as we needed approval from a parent. Whatever the reason, there's an observable fact that you put some theater people in a room and they're going to make a family unit for the time they're working together. One of my earliest experiences in this was at Los Altos Children's Theater from March 1975 through August 1978. I was part of a family made so strong and lasting it still vibrates some 47 years later. Look around you. There are members of that family right here, right now. We're all here because one of our family, some would say the beating heart of that family, is no longer here. We're here to feel that beating heart again. Jamie Lynch was as close to the heart of that particular family as anyone. He was gifted, he was open-minded and sweet. He was loving and he was loved. He was our brother and he was our son. He was good and friendly. Perhaps he learned all that from his own family. His parents, Rainey and Art, were den parents to us all. His brothers, Frank and Geordie, were kin to us all. And their home at 520 Benvenue Avenue in Los Altos, of course, he had the place memorized, as we all came to know as the Shambles in Los Altos, was central headquarters for our assaults on our neighbors' ears at Christmas time, or our cast parties, or just a chance to celebrate being together. I loved the Lynch family, each and every one of them. For me, Jamie had a special kind of magic about him. As Ken Moeller, one of his good friends from those days, wrote, in The Fantastics, Jamie played Mortimer, a hack actor in a traveling show whose only job was to die dramatically. Jamie spent 2 minutes running around on stage in his flailing death throes. He was part melodramatic thespian, part stuntman. He was brilliant and hilarious. He was 12. He had the knack. I just read that. And as his director in that production, I remember that I gave him virtually no guidance in that scene, but just let him go. You're right, Ken. Jamie had the knack. While I love that Jamie was part of the LACT family, and while I love Jamie, I look back and realize I wish he hadn't had quite such a knack for dying, because Jamie was and is so full of life for me. I don't have any biological children. I adopt my family each time I put on a show. But in my nearly 50 years in this business, with all the families I've had, there's never been a family quite like the one I found in a little town in the Bay Area in the middle of the 1970s. And of that family, no one was more meaningful to me than Jamie Lynch. If I had a son, I'd have liked him to be Jamie. Sail on, Jamie Lynch. You're heading home.
Well, now that I'm all nice and emotional, thanks everyone for coming down. I heard so many stories growing up about his theater days, and obviously I was a part of his Vashon and Dead and Fair days, but the theater ones were the ones that he felt like a rock star the most. And he loved feeling like a rock star. So feel grateful to get to see everyone here today and get to know some of you a little better, and please feel free when you're leaving memories or telling me stories to tell me the good and the bad. I know it all existed, and privy to the bad a little more than I'd like to be, but I want to be able to look back on all sides of his life, and I'm just glad everyone's here. My dad hated formal things, and I know this would probably make him super uncomfortable, but I'm glad that we're doing it on a very casual level. Oh, but to him it would have been. But to him it was, and so I'm glad we're doing it more casually for sure. But
It's got its own soundtrack.
yeah. And it's beautiful. It's absolutely gorgeous soundtrack. I'm about it. So
I was just thinking he would love that.
any kind of live music is perfect. So.
You'd probably be dancing right now.
I thought this was coming from Jamie. That came to me.
Yeah, it could be. I definitely like that.
Yeah.
But I mean, like Dad would say, just keep partying and keep it bitching.
My parents knew the Lynches from when I was like in my mom's womb. So as soon as it was possible, I was hanging out with all three brothers, and I was an only child, so for me it was really cool to kind of have like surrogate brothers. I also did children's theater. I wonder if Jamie inspired me. I know all of, the Lynches were really into children's theater. And I remember like Paula Meltzer and anyway, different directors. But I remember Jamie first of all, Jamie was so charming, just naturally charming, just rolled off. He was this ooze charm. Incredible natural actor, any role, just boom. And I remember the Fantastics, Charlie Brown, I don't know, there were lots of different... Oliver, just all kinds of productions. So then there was a long period where I didn't see the Lynches, and I actually lived like 2 blocks from Farrell's. So I wish I knew about the air guitar and stuff. I would have gone over there. I would have hung out with those guys. And I may have actually seen JR or whoever was working at Farrell's, because I used to go there a lot for parties and
Keith worked there a lot
birthday
more than
parties, the zoo, and all that stuff. And then I next saw Jamie. I went to Vashon Island at one point because Rainey said, "Yeah, I've got a place there," and Jamie's managing it, and I got to see the house where Jamie was living, Rainey's house. And that was just really neat because Jamie knew everybody on Vashon, and he was doing landscape stuff at the time, and so for a couple days we kind of walked around and he introduced me to people, and I got a picture of what his life was like there, and it was really a sweet community, so I was really glad for him. And then this time where I went to Oregon Country Fair, and Jamie had a booth. I don't remember. It was like, I don't know, juggling stuff, or I don't remember what it was. But anyway, when at the end of the day, all of the non-workers have to leave the fair, and that's when all the great shows happen, like the jugglers and the fire dancers and all that stuff. So I was like, okay, I'm hiding. So I hid. Jamie let me hide in his booth, which is, I think he would have gotten in trouble, but I was fine with him. Neah was there, and anyway, that was just
at the Vashon booth.
It was a Vashon booth.
Vashon booth.
Yeah. Anyway, and then I got to see him later. I don't know, some years ago, the Christmases, I got to hang out with you guys after Christmas the same day, and Jamie so sweetly one Christmas gifted me a beautiful nightlight that you plug in, and it's got like fiber optic coming out, what's that?
That was his own
creation. He made that. Wow. And I still have it, and I love it, and I look at how the lights like change colors, and it's very psychedelic, and it's really awesome. Yeah. And I just was very touched, and he was always really glad to see me at Christmas, and shared some of his poetry and had ideas and wanted to talk about his ideas, and just it was really nice to get to reconnect with his family and with him, and I really appreciate, his spirit. He had a really indomitable spirit that even when a lot of adversity happened, he had the hope of freedom and liberation, and being himself in whatever way, however, and trying to throw off limits. And I really admire him for that. I'm glad to meet you all.
Okay, I got 3 stories. First one was at sometime around 80 or 81, and at LACT, there was the room where we used to put props or wardrobe. It was what did they call that room?
Tech room, room 2.
We used to hang out there. Well, we go get drunk one night. Where can we go? Hey, I got the keys to the tech room. Let's go. So I don't know who it was. Maybe, I don't know, Mark, you were there. You were there? You remember this story? Okay.
Which one?
There was somebody.
Is this the one with the
Dan
cops?
was there, I think.
Brad
was there, Brad Clarkson. Anyway, we were hanging around the table. We had some Heinekens or something, and we had like a 12-pack, and somebody had a moped, which was new at the time.
Oh,
and
yeah?
Jamie was like, hey, can I ride the moped? Yeah, sure. So he's kind of drunk, and he's going around Hillview Avenue, and he gets the eye of some cop. And the smart thing for him to do, of course, is turn around and go right back to where we are. The cop just follows him, and he runs in. He says, "Hey, the cops are coming!" Coming, beer up there. Cops come in with their guns drawn, and then they needed to call the head.
Whoever was in charge. Well, he was in charge of like the Los Altos Rec Center. And in charge of the whole canvas. Yes.
And as everybody left
Campus.
their car one by one, you didn't want to be the last one.
Who was the last one?
I don't know.
It might have been me because I lived the farthest away.
Yeah, I lived near you. Yeah.
Yep.
So
yeah.
Not good. Anyway, that was a one story. another story.
Forgotten about that.
Me and Jamie were in his bug, right? The bug, and we're driving around town, and we're spontaneous. Hey, man, it's Friday. What do you want to do? Let's go to L.A. Yeah. So we got on the freeway, man. We just drove to L.A. Where are we going to stay? I don't know. We found Beverly Hills.
He told my parents
he slept in the car.
Yeah, he told my parents he was going to Sunnyvale.
We slept in front of Lana Turner's house. It was Lana Turner's house. We slept in front. We went and saw our friend Lou McKellar at his college, and then we drove back home, and it was about it. And it was so that just spontaneous.
The thing
spontaneous,
is, he
right?
called my parents and said, "Sorry, I got too drunk to drive. I have to sleep in Sunnyvale or something like that." That was the lie. Parents never knew he went to LA.
The third story, there's a couple more, but and I'll tell this one. Okay, we're in Sunnyvale. We're doing Oliver, and I'm sure you were in it. You were in it. I was in it. Okay. But he plays Bill Sykes, the bad dude that gets killed on London Bridge, boom, and he falls off onto a mattress backstage, right, where he's dead. Hey, the guy. So Jamie, being the actor that he is, he falls onto the mattress and stays there, out of sight of the audience, for the rest of the show. Until
Here's method.
That's what actors do.
That was the show that he scared the shit out of Brad Clarkson. So Brad's walking around backstage. He's like, "Hey, Jamie, that looks good." And Jamie grabs him and throws him up against the wall. And he goes, "I'm Bill Sykes. Don't call me Jamie." And Brad's like, "Whoa." Brad was not a small guy, but Brad was like, "Okay," and walked away back slowly from him.
He did the same thing to me. We walked through a good scene. We walked out in the tech hallway, and I turned around and said, "That was great scene." He grabbed me by the phone. He said, "You call me Bill Sykes."
Method.
Okay, the last story. We reconnected when he came back up here, and the first thing that we did was we went to a Dead show at Shoreline, and he has his backpack on, and we go through security, and he unzips his backpack, and he has a juice bottle and a beer, and the guy says, "Hey, you aren't taking this beer in here, man." "Oh, man." And he took it, and we walked out, and he had a screwdriver in it.
Got the heart out call in.
I just want to say, I heard this today, and it was so true to Jamie. It's like, you don't remember everything people said or did, but you remember how they made you feel. And Jamie made me feel golden, man. He made me feel inspired. The words that I come up with is like, he was playful, he was inclusive, and he was contagious. For me personally, my interaction with Jamie made me feel very seen, very energized, activated, and it's actually informed a lot about my spirit. When people talk about spirit, like, he had something really contagious. He had a charisma. He had something that I resonated with, and I've actually tried to take forward. And I'll just share a quick thing. I mean, it was '97, so I haven't seen Jamie in a while, and but all of my interactions with him were really meaningful, and I just felt really connected and kind of in the moment with him. And I remember it was an intense night. My dad was dying in the hospital. I didn't know what to do, so I came to the shambles, and I was just kind of hanging and talking to people. And Jamie and I ended up in the room kind of at the end of the night. I wasn't sure if I was going to go back to the hospital, but I just enjoyed his presence so much. And it was so soothing. I can't even explain sort of what the thing was. It just was great. It was kind of that overall sort of meta, everything's going to be okay thing. And he gave me a bag of shrooms. he had those Vashon Island shrooms, man. They were kind of like microdosing, man. But I love those shrooms, and I love that night. That was one of the last times that I really hung out with him. It was a long time ago, but I just wanted to share that.
Have some amazing speeches and talks. Excellent. I don't know how to just speak like that, but I put down a few words on. Do you guys mind if actually I wish we had a lazy boy here or something, just kind of sit.
Oh, I got one in the car. I'll bring it.
There you go.
So this is going to be a childhood perspective.
What is your name? Should I know you?
Yeah, Jeff Frankenfield.
Oh, so yeah, my name is Jeff Frankenfield.
Childhood friend.
Okay.
And
He lived
I'll
on
probably get to that in a little bit here. But I do have to read it because I'm terrified of speaking in front of people, even my wife. More so my wife.
We're not people, we're friends.
All right, let's see what we got. Okay. Remembering Jamie Lynch, September 10th, 2022. The other day I caught myself thinking about... Louder? Okay.
Project.
Project.
Okay.
On your theater voice.
Yeah, I know. This is
Yeah.
The other day, I caught myself thinking about Jamie. My thoughts began as I was cleaning up the bar in my office, and I realized this shit needs to be respected. It's potent shit. Respect the booze, otherwise you lose. It's kryptonite to some and pure luxury to others. Luxury, baby. That's a slippery slope. What I'm talking about is how we're all striving to get to the same proverbial golf course in the sky. Fly away. How is this related to Jamie Lynch? You ask.
How is this related?
How is this related to Jamie Lynch?
Did he play golf with a horse and a little man on his shirt? Sorry, Doobie. How becoming if that would have been Jamie. But it wasn't. No, Jamie was a well-seasoned hippie. He was a kid, which is the precursor to the hippy-dippy. And as a kid, like the rest of the brood growing up on Benvenue Avenue in the 70s, was a real wild child. My first memory of Jamie was his very young age. He was 2 years older than me, which made him the same age as my brother. Jamie and Mike, two peas in a pod for a brief moment in time. These two could not have taken a more opposite and in some ways more extreme path through life. Most people would never believe that they were remotely acquainted, but they embarked on their individual journeys. Before they embarked on their individual journeys, they were co-conspirators and neighborhood friends. I was the younger punk brother who always wanted to tag along for adventurous walkabouts, stirring up mischief, and being free range as natural growing up. I can't talk about Jamie without reflecting on my childhood street, Benvenue. I'll try to keep from going off on a tangent. It was an extraordinary time to be a kid in this neighborhood. Benvenue was a street filled with so many families and kids that were coming of age at the same time. All of the kids throughout the grades before entering adulthood. I know of no other street in Los Altos that had so many families intertwined with the broader community. The Biggs, the Callisons, the Cadies, the Nickersons, the Palmers, the Chambros, the Smiths, the Schultzes, to name a few. Across the street, half a block down from my house, there was a property with an overgrown yard, barely able to see the house. That's where my brother's friend Jamie lived. With a sniveling younger, sorry Geordie, big guy affiliated with what we would call a gang today. Frankie and the Schultz brothers were to be avoided at all costs.
Oh!
Yeah, I'm not even going to go there. Okay. The house became known as the Shambles, which somehow, oddly fitting, under its roof boasted 3 enthusiastic child actors, 2 snapping dogs, and a partridge in a pear tree. Seriously, this place had no boundaries compared to my house. I used to wonder how Art and Rainey ever put up with it. When I got older, I began to understand that they were actually instigators in advocating for the full, unabridged spirit of raising children without too many boundaries. Let the boys and the dogs run free. Or perhaps it was the other way around. like when the prisoners hijack the prison and the jailers become captives. Whatever the real plot to this madness, I believe the parents, Art and Rainey, ultimately wanted their boys to experience the world on their own terms in an unrestrained, loving environment. And that's what these three brothers did. Jamie boy, you were always a bit of a monkey man to me, swinging from tree limbs, hanging over Amador, snaking through a maze of pine needle tunnels that were precisely bored on Gonzalez's property next to Tucker's house. Jamie boy, you were my brother's friend, but I wanted to be with your jovial spirit. We were so free. How could adulthood ever compare to the fleeting reality of our youth?
If my words did glow with the gold of sunshine, and my tunes were played on the harp unstrung, would you hear my voice come through the music? Would you hold it near as it were your own? It's a hand-me-down. The thoughts are broken. Perhaps they're better left unsung. I don't know. Don't really care. Let there be songs to fill the air. Rippled in still water, when there is no pebble tossed, nor wind to blow, reach out your hand. If your cup be empty, if your cup is full, may it be again, let it be known. There is a fountain that was not made by the hands of men. There is a road, no simple highway between the dawn and the dark of night. And if you go, no one may follow. That path is for your steps alone. Ripple in still water, when there is no pebble tossed, no wind to blow, you choose to lead, must follow. But if you fall alone. If you should stand, then who's to guide you? If I knew the way, I would take you home. La da da da, la da